and I've done Zen, and I've done all these types of meditation. So I've met a lot of people that meditate. But the thing is it's not that way for everyone. So I think I'm more of the minority where I get blissed out in a way when I meditate. Like for me, it's euphoric. And I'm sorry for the people that it's not. So not to brag, but
I struggle a little bit more than you do, but
yeah, I honestly just think it's lucky. I felt this one feeling that one time, and now I just am able to. I don't know. It's usually pretty. Now it's not like that anymore for me though. But that's how it was for 8 years when I meditated.
Welcome to the Envibe Live podcast with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. By tuning in, you are joining a community that will inspire you to increase balance, wellness, and joy in your life. We'll offer expert information and insightful conversations to help us all on our journey to live more in vibe. For more information and articles, remember to also check out our website at envibelife.com. That's ENVIBELIFE.com. And we're grateful that you're here.
Hi, this is Cheryl and Amy with the Envibe Live podcast. And today we have the special guest, Dr. Adam Potts, who is a physical therapist in Asheville, North Carolina. Am I correct, Adam?
Yep, that's right.
And the name of his clinic is, I'm sorry, fill me in there. It's Breath. Tell me one more time, Adam, what that is.
It's Begin with Breath.
Begin with Breath. I can't believe I forgot that. Because I actually love that title and that name because I feel like, Amy and I talk about breath all the time and how it's hugely important. But what we're going to go in today is we're going to go into Adam's spiritual journey, and he also works with a lot of Tai Chi with his patients. And so we want to go into that. So thank you for joining us, Adam. And just fill us in, fill our guest in, and let them know exactly, a little bit about you and your journey and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl and Amy. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to share some of my journey with you all. So, I could start. I've had a lot of different events in my life that led to my spiritual journey. But I guess a good place to start would probably be in the Marines, because that's where I actually first started to kind of dip into this deeper aspect of myself, which I was kind of ignoring for most of my life. And so I was in the Marine Corps right out of high school. In high school, I was kind of like, I was always pretty smart, but in high school, I didn't apply myself a whole lot, and did a lot of partying and actually a lot of drinking too. And I'll tell you about that a little bit, why I mentioned that in a few minutes here. But basically, then I went into the Marine Corps, and I went over to Japan for a year, and it was pretty awesome. Actually, I was in Okinawa, and the land of where karate came from. And but anyway, so it was when I got back, I was stationed in North Carolina at Cherry Point, and then that's when actually when I was in Japan, that was when 9/11 happened, and so. I didn't get deployed right away. When I got back, though, then I got deployed to Iraq when I was in North Carolina. And so I was one of the first ones in. We were right basically behind the tanks, just going right in, starting in Kuwait. It took us 11 days, and we worked our way into Iraq. So it was pretty intense. But I remember before we were about to leave, because we called it G Day, where we started to go they sent the ground forces in from Kuwait to Iraq. And I was sitting there, and I just felt so kind of alone, even though I was surrounded by hundreds of Marines, and a lot of these fellow Marines, I was, we partied together and stuff. But I had only known them for, I think it was maybe 6 months. So I didn't really have any strong connections with anyone I was with. I was in this strange place in the desert, and people, ready to go off into war. And so I don't know why, but we all were issued a little pocket Bible. And so, and now I grew up Catholic, but I was never really, that into it. But anyway, so I opened up the Bible, and I'm like, I'm just going to start reading because I just feel so alone and away from family and friends. And so I started reading, and it wasn't, I think it was the Old Testament. I was just reading names at first, and it wasn't even really what I was reading, but just the fact that I was looking was all of a sudden this place inside me kind of opened up, and I kind of realized and felt this deep love. inside. That's really how that's the only way I can really describe it, as this feeling of love. And that's what I was craving, because I was always surrounded by friends and family growing up. And so that's really where I realized that I don't need anything external necessarily to feel this love, which was cool. And so I was like, all right. But then we went off to war.
I did too.
The whole time you were telling the story.
It's awesome, because it's like you went back to kind of this foundation that you had. You're saying, you grew up Catholic, but you weren't that into it, but it gave you a little bit of a foundation. Right. And you knew to open that Bible to find something that, never mind that you were over there with a bunch of people you didn't know. You were about to go into war.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as dramatic a moment as you can imagine.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So no, feel free, please. But yeah, so I was really like trying to reach for something to hold on to, because of all like that probably there's a lot of fear, in the Marines, we try not to say that we're scared, it's not part of the culture, but honestly, if I was honest, then yeah, I was scared, I was about to go off into Iraq. And so anyways, that gave me some peace to when I was about to go. And so we went in, and it went relatively well. I won't go into the whole story, because we could be here all day, but basically everyone that I knew made it back. And so some of us got hurt, but it's about as good as you can get when it comes to war. And so so I was really lucky. I pretty much came back and then I actually went back again for a second tour the next year. But anyway, so what happened though was although I had this kind of a little bit of an awakening, I would call it, like this, not really an awakening, but like an experience of this deeper kind of awareness. Even though I had that, it kind of like I didn't forget about it, but obviously I remember it today, but I didn't follow that path. So I didn't really, become, a practicing, Catholic or anything like that again. And actually what happened was I started drinking more. So I kind of really got into a bad habit with that. And then I went back to Iraq again. And actually my dad had died right in between tours. And so it was really a rough time for me. And so, and I just grew up in a place where it was where I just did a lot of drinking. And so, but anyway, so I got back from Iraq the second time, and I kept drinking, and eventually I got into trouble for drinking and driving. And so, but at the time I was actually in college, because right after I got out of the service, I enrolled in University of Massachusetts, Lowell. I'm originally from Massachusetts, right near Boston. So anyways, I was in school and I was studying really hard, and I'm like, all right, I want to go through exercise physiology and then potentially go into PT school, which was my goal. And so, but I was just in this bad habit of drinking all the time. That was my go-to. I didn't have any other tools. And so what happened was I ended up getting in trouble, and I had to go to this rehab. I had to go to a 2-week inpatient program. And it was pretty rough, because we had to sit in these chairs all day long, and then they just had these people, like these counselors, that'd come in and talk. But anyways, luckily for me, I was studying hardcore, because I really wanted to do well, and I wanted to get a great job and everything like that. So I remember I was studying physics at the time. So I was like enmeshed in learning. And so when the counselors came up in this rehab, I was just kept going. I was taking notes, and I was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting, because I've always been interested in psychology. And so they're talking, and this was the number one thing that set me on actually two things during that time that really set me on the path I'm at today consistently, is one of the counselors went up to the board and they wrote PEMS. All right. And then we had to make a column for each letter. And so the first column was physical, the second was emotional, the third was mental, and then the fourth was spiritual.
Wow. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the assignment was to write down how we address each aspect of that every day. And I was like, all right, physical, I was lifting weights a lot, I was in the Marines, so I was really into that. So, I was doing that. I was eating pretty well. Emotional, I was like, well, I have lots of friends, so I feel like I get emotional needs met. And mental, well, I'm like studying my butt off. So, and then spiritual was just blank. I was just like, I was like, I definitely, don't have anything I do spiritually at all, and then I was like, I better fix that, because, I was in that mode of learning and just doing what I need to do to get a good grade, I guess. So I don't know. I guess I was trying to get a good grade at rehab. And
you got 2 weeks to figure out the S.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But for some reason, it was interesting because before I went, I'm like, I better bring some books to this place, because you can't have TV or anything. It's rehab. So I was like, all right. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I'm like, I think deep inside, I knew I needed to change this. I knew if I didn't do something different, then I was going to probably just do it again and go to jail or get a felony or something where I couldn't get a good job. So I was like, I need to avoid that. So part of me knew I needed to do something. And so when I was looking through the books, I think it was Barnes & Noble, I picked up a book. It was called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
You heard that one? Yeah.
We put that on our website already. So.
Yeah, and that book, I that was like my Bible actually for years and years. I went by that to it. I tried to do it to a T. And that's what I liked about that kind of a book, because it had very practical steps that I could understand. And also it was kind of based a little in physics in a way. And so, he was a doctor, so he talked a little scientific, which I like because I was studying science. And so it really just clicked with me. And anyways, besides all the intellectual stuff I liked about it, really the big thing is I got the most important thing I got from that book was if you don't do anything else, then meditate twice a day. That was basically what I got out of it. And I was like, I'd love to, I guess I should do that, And so, and then just by chance, as I was reading that at the rehab, one of the counselors. Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to get someone to get him out of here.
Oh, that's okay. I could barely hear him. Yeah. So I got a dog. I got a big one. He's about 80 pounds. Actually, he's probably 90 pounds now. Oops. But he's loud. But anyways, yeah. So I was reading, so one of the counselors, and he was actually part Native American. And I have, the reason I'm telling you that is I'll tell you in a second. But basically he said, I'm going to offer a meditation session for anyone that wants to come. Now, don't come if you just want to sleep, because that's not what it's there for. So come if you're really interested in learning meditation. And so I was like, I'm supposed to meditate. He's saying, come meditate. I'm like, sounds perfect. So I went and I had this amazing experience where now this isn't how I meditate now, but I imagine myself expanded throughout the whole universe. And it was just really expansive and kind of, maybe people might think a little woo woo, but it was just amazing. And whatever it was, it got me to do it every day, because it ended up replacing my drinking. And I haven't had a drink ever since. It's been about 13 years now. And
I have heard that they have studied brainwaves in meditation, and I need to pull up these studies where you can get the same sort of high in a meditation that you do from really psychedelics, really hardcore meditation or hardcore mind altering drugs. Yeah, the same.
Yeah.
Same
yeah. I've taught meditation to a lot of people too. And my wife, practices, and I go to a community center that, has it's called Insight Meditation. And I've done Zen, and I've done all these types of meditation. So I've met a lot of people that meditate. But the thing is it's not that way for everyone. So I think I'm more of the minority where I get blissed out in a way when I meditate. To me, it's euphoric. And I'm sorry for the people that it's not. So not to brag, but
I struggle a little bit more than you do, but
yeah, I honestly just think it's lucky. I felt this one feeling that one time, and now I just am able to. I don't know. It's usually pretty. Now it's not like that anymore for me though. But that's how it was for 8 years when I meditated. And now most people find it really hard because they don't get that feeling, and so for them, I give them even more props because they have to struggle to do it. And so that, for me, it's almost easy. So it's I don't give myself as much props, but a little bit, because I do it every day for 13 years. So.
How long do you spend each day meditating?
So for the first 8 years, I did 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. And then I did that religiously, I guess, pardon the pun. But anyway, so I did that. And then, but then what happened was when I met my wife, she didn't feel that way. She didn't experience that. And so I was like, oh, that's not how everyone meditates. For her, it was the opposite. She had to work at it, in order to do it. And then she started to introduce me into this idea of feeling difficult emotions.
Oh. Interesting. Yeah.
And so what I realized what I was doing was I was blocking out anything that was unpleasant and only letting in things that were pleasant.
Oh, I get
And
that.
but that was really transferring into life because, well, another part of the story was that I told you how my dad died when I was in between tours of going to Iraq. It's crazy, but anyways, what happened was he died from heart disease and diabetes and a lot of lifestyle stuff. Although we think it's more from, he was in Vietnam and there was the Agent Orange. And so we think it might have been that more involved because he was really young. He was only 59. And so, but anyways, I had in my mind that if I didn't change my lifestyle, then I was going to potentially not make it that far. And so, anyways, I was trying to block out any stress. That was my thing. I was like, I can't let out any stress. As soon as I felt any, I would just meditate, and it was like my escape. And so you can actually use meditation as an escape, and which is not good necessarily. But for me, it was good at first because I got me to quit drinking. So, there's a time and a place. But at some point I realized that if I want to be in a relationship, I have to let in some stuff. I can't just block it out because my wife, she expresses her emotions and a lot of them are difficult. So unless I didn't want to listen to her or block her out, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it. And so I was open to it. And so I opened up and I changed my whole meditation to, instead of doing like a mantra or like a, because I was doing that's what I was kind of doing. That's the kind that Deepak Chopra teaches a lot, as like this mantra transcendental. But what I learned instead was insight meditation. And that was where you let in pretty much everything and you watch it as a stream, just coming and going. And so you start, and then, you can turn away as you need to, and you can focus on your anchor. But anyways, it's just a different way that I found is really necessary. And because basically there's really two main types of meditation. There's concentration and mindfulness. All right. And so you need concentration in order to be mindful. So it's sometimes people do both, but if you don't add in the mindfulness piece, then you're going to be limited in life, basically. And so that's my experience, at least.
Wow,
and so I was very.
There's a lot there. So first of all, thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service to the country, and you clearly come from a family with a history of service to the country. So thank you for that. And there's so many insights there. So you're studying in a very Western field, very Western medicine field. And I think you have your doctorate in physical therapy. Am I correct? So, very far down the path of Western medicine. But at the same time, you're realizing the importance or the value, I should say, of some alternative therapies and alternative practices. And then at what point did you see with your patients or clients that when you started incorporating those two things together, different changes started happening?
Yeah. And so I'll leave off where I ended with the meditation. And so basically that kind of led into, okay, what else is out there kind of thing? Because I was really into, exercise physiology and then physical therapy. So that's when I started to get into yoga and Tai Chi. And so I remember I mentioned it to my sister in passing. I was like, because I was lifting weights a lot still. And I was like, I really need to stretch more. I need to be more flexible, and my sister, so she just remembered me saying that. And so she gave me a DVD for a yoga DVD. And so that's where I started to get more flexible. And then, and then eventually it led into me going to a 30-day teacher training, an immersion, to where I went to Kripalu. I don't know if you're familiar with Kripalu Center, but it's up in Massachusetts. It's the largest yoga center in the continent, actually. And it's just amazing. Kripalu actually means compassion. So it's just really a beautiful practice of yoga. And so I did that, but I was really still, my main thing was meditation. But I was practicing yoga, and then I was teaching it too a little bit. But then I was also learning about this stuff called Qi. And so I was reading about this I was kind of doing a lot of this at the same time. And I was like the Chinese version of this energy they call it Qi. And so I started to study that and practice what's called Qi Gong, which is basically an energy exercise where it's very simple. You just follow along, and it's very, there's thousands of different types, but the kind that I was learning was very symmetrical. So you're moving the hands all one way, you're breathing, and you're focusing your mind on what you're doing, basically. So it's mindful. And so I was like, all right, so it's like a moving meditation. And I was like, that's perfect. So, because I know for me, I love meditation, but my clients and patients, maybe they probably don't want to sit there, they probably can't, or they do, or maybe they just are not, we're all at different stages of where we're at. So, I thought, well, maybe I can introduce that to some of my clients and patients and then maybe they'll get into the meditation later or something. But I found that you don't need to, there's more than one way to get spiritual, I guess, or to tap into that awareness. Really, is what it's about to me. And so I went through, PT school, and I was going through my clinicals, and, one thing that I could always do is incorporate the breath, because even in PT, in Pilates, I don't know as much about gyrotonics. I was looking it up a little bit, but it looks like, it's actually pretty cool because it's I guess it's very circular. Is that right? And that's all.
Circular, it's very energetic. It's a lot of breath work,
Yep. So it's very.
We're all speaking the same language. We are.
Yeah. So I was like, well, the breath, when we talk about in PT, now in PT school, it's more like breathe in breathe in and then breathe out when you're doing the exertion. It's not really a mindful thing. It's more just so you don't hold your breath and,
right.
Spike your blood pressure, all the physiology is spiking your blood pressure and then it drops, whatever. But anyways, but this breath is still very important. And then in nowadays, though, a lot of the trainings that you can go to for continuing ed definitely has breath as a key. And so I was like, well, I can always integrate the breath with anyone. And I'm not going to be, barking up the wrong tree. It's like you can explain it in any way you want. And so I always integrated a breathing technique with pretty much all of my clients from the start. So that's why I love the name Begin with Breath, because that's where I started with integrating it with my clients. And so, but honestly, my wife came up with the name to give her credit. So, so she's a big part of my life. So, but yeah,
I get that too. Stephen and I own our business together.
Yeah. So that's great. I love that. But yeah, so I started to integrate the breath, and then, but then I was always kind of afraid to start like teaching like yoga and qigong, especially when I was still in school and like doing my internships where there was someone watching over me and they're like not really into it. So I kind of just kept, I held myself back a little bit, but I would always throw in a breathing exercise like diaphragmatic breathing, just trying to get people to breathe from their belly, or just taking a deep breath for those that because some people have struggles with even breathing into the belly, which is, it's just very common. So I was like, well, they can at least take a deep breath, and that's still being mindful. It's potentially, they can still incorporate that. So that's really how I started doing it. And then after PT school, I actually moved out to Oregon and I did a residency for orthopedics. So, and then I started to that's when I was like spreading my wings with it all. And I was incorporating all the breathing. I started to integrate Qi Gong, which is kind of like Tai Chi. It's just like, to me, it's like a simpler form that people can follow along with easier. So I started to do that. And then there were people there that also liked yoga. So I would show them how to adjust their yoga postures to make it so that they could still practice. And so that's kind of how I did it for a while. But then if you fast forward it to now, up until actually this month, I worked for a clinic. I now have my own business. I'm self-employed only. But I was working for. Yeah. What's that?
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It worked out to where, because, it was the first, actually me and my wife got sick in February. So that's when like the whole thing started. So we couldn't get tested because we didn't qualify for it. But anyways, we got better, all of us. And so that was good. And actually my daughter was sick too, and she's 3.5. So we were really scared about that, but she was okay. But then, so I couldn't go to work then. I decided I didn't want to, because I didn't want to risk, if I did have it, I didn't want to get anybody else it. So I didn't go to work. Then the clinic closed. And then I went on paternity leave because we just had a son, and he's about 2.5 months old now. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I hadn't been to work since February. Yeah. Yeah, so I hadn't been to work since February. So I was like, so at the time though, I took a few weeks off, especially after the birth. I just was all in. And then I was like, you know what? If I can get this business going, then I won't have to go back. I can set my own hours, have long lunches like I'm doing now. And like, all this stuff where it could really set us off. So I went back sooner than I wanted to, because I was originally, if I was going to still work at the clinic, I was going to take 3 months off. That was my original plan. So I wanted to just, I know how important it is, but anyway, so I decided if I just cut it down, but then I could have the whole rest of my life a certain way, I decided to do that.
And is that when you started incorporating the Tai Chi into your patient care? Your own practice?
No, actually before that. So I'll back up a little bit. That's where I'm at now. But so it was probably, at least a year ago to 2 years ago, I actually got it was like 2 years, 2.5 now. But I got certified officially as a Tai Chi instructor. And so now I've done other trainings before for Tai Chi throughout the years, but this one was one that I actually wanted to use and teach this specific method. And it's called the Tai Chi Fit method. And so this method is great because you don't have to learn anything or memorize any complex routines. And now traditional Tai Chi, you normally do that. You learn, like, for instance, the Yang style 24. So you learn 24 movements, and it can take weeks to months to learn the whole thing. And then once you learn them, though, you have this beautiful form that you can do every day if you want, but until then, it's kind of people. So basically, we say in the traditional Tai Chi world is you start off with 20 students, but then you finish with 2, because people get they lose that motivation because it takes so long to learn the traditional forms. And so anyways, I realized I didn't want to really teach that way. So, but then I learned the Tai Chi Fit method. And so that method, you just follow along like a yoga class. So you don't have to learn anything, and you just follow along, and it's really just low stress, and it's about getting into the flow. And so the flow, as you might know, there's a lot of research on it, but basically it's this physiological state where your judgments tend to drift away. You're very present. You're in the body, and you're basically your physiology changes to where you're relaxed, and really just helps you to really release a lot of stress.
Now, you and I and Amy, we all know the benefits of releasing the stress and how that carries on to your patients. But tell me, what do you see in your clinic once your patients start to do Tai Chi? Like, what's the number one, what are you seeing, like the number one thing it relieves for them?
Right. So basically, as soon as I got certified, that's when I started to integrate it more into my patients, because I knew it was great for balance. And so that was the first place that I looked, because I can always because that's kind of what we were doing anyways, was these weight shifting movements. And now I'm just adding in the arms and the breath to make it actually more enjoyable. So you're not just doing reps and sets, you're actually doing a practice where you're using your whole mind and body. And it's really enjoyable. And so what I found was that people that did that, they stuck with the program. They stuck with doing the Tai Chi instead of the traditional. We started off with basic balance stuff, but then we transition as soon as possible. I'd say, hey, are you interested in integrating some Tai Chi, which is great for balance? And that's one of the primary things it's great for. And there's tons of research on the effects of improving balance in people, especially as you get older.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. So keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no. I could just talk forever. So if let me know if you want to know.
So balance is probably because I know sometimes it's when you say the word Tai Chi, when people don't know anything about it, someone might be like, oh no, that's not me. But balance is a real easy sell. I hate to use that word, but it is an easy sell because your patients are looking for that. But there's more to it than that. So I want you to tell the deeper story of Tai Chi. Yes, there's the physical, the balance, the strength that comes from doing these balance things. But, correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't there sort of like an energy that you're moving with Tai Chi?
Yeah. And so Tai Chi, it comes from the principles of traditional Chinese medicine. And in traditional Chinese medicine, you can think of it as 4 branches. You have acupuncture, which most people know of. Then you have herbology and nutrition. So, using herbal medicine, and now they do a lot more with nutrition nowadays. Then you have massage as actually a branch. And then they call it Tui Na. I think they do other ones. They do reflexology as well. But basically, some form of massage. And then the fourth thing is Qi Gong. So medical Qi Gong. And so Qi Gong is what Tai Chi came from. All right. So if you were to go to a tradition, it's called an OMD, an Oriental medical doctor. If you went to one, then you would find that you would get something in those four categories. And so and so the acupuncture, people know, so I'll start there. So with acupuncture, the idea is that we have this energy within us they call Qi. In yoga, they call it prana. In Hawaii, they call it mana. In Japan, they call it Qi. And really, we can even equate it in Western science as our bioelectricity, although it's much more than that. That's just one aspect of this Qi, this mysterious energy that we can experience even though we can't measure it. And so that's why Western science doesn't focus on it, because you can't measure it. Although, much like gravity, you can see its effects, but you can't see gravity, but we know that it's there, right? And so so that's what I believe, is that there is this energy that, because I can feel it. And that's the thing, is if you practice Qigong and Tai Chi enough, you actually start to sense it. You can feel this energy in different ways. Some people feel a flowing like a river, like this energy, almost like blood flow, but it's, or some people feel a tingling or a warmth. Some people just feel lighter or even heavier, depending. And so it's really different for each person. So if whatever you're feeling, if you start to feel something different, then that might be it. But with acupuncture, the idea is that this energy flows through our body like rivers. And so there's channels, or they call them meridians. And it's kind of like our blood vessels, only they're mapped out differently. And so, and you can actually measure the electrical conductivity when you manipulate this energy. So you can technically measure it in a way. So, but anyways, so the idea in traditional Chinese medicine is that when the energy gets stuck or stagnant, that's when all diseases begin. And so, then that's actually the underlying thing. And then it starts to surface through the physical, mental, emotional, and then it goes through all those layers. But it really just starts with if our energy is not flowing, then we're going to run into problems. And so with acupuncture, they put the needle in the spots where they tend to think that's what's going to free it up. So if it's blocked in all these areas, now that's like a very kind of more of a primitive idea of it. Now we know that the physiology, the neurophysiology also supports it. So it might also be causing a neurophysiological response, meaning that we have all our sensors in our body. The sensors connect to the nerves, which then go up to the spinal cord and then to the brain. And so it's kind of like a two-way street where we have information coming up, and then our brain processes it and then outputs. And then we output, either maybe we move our limb because, we feel like, oh, that's hot, so we'll take it away. That's actually more of a reflex, but anyways, you get the idea.
It's like your brain's telling it to do something. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what you're describing again is a flow of energy, not something that's static or in one place. It goes up, it goes down, it goes out.
It's constant movement through our body.
Yep. And it goes down through these certain pathways, and they actually have mapped it out to where some schools have thought it actually goes in a very specific direction as well. And so in each meridian is related to an organ. And so that's why, like, if you're having like a heart condition, then they might find the heart point on your hand, and that's going to help because it all connects through the energy. But then also from a science standpoint, I think there's a neurological effect that's happening as well. So it's kind of like it's still hard to pinpoint the mechanics of it, but we know the effects, and we know that it works because that's why there's been so much research on it in the West, and that's why it's so much practiced today, is because it actually works. And so that's the idea in very general of what's this energy that's flowing.
So this energy that we're talking about, Tai Chi tries to get this energy moving and flowing as well. It's just a method of moving it, where acupuncture is trying to move it with the needles, where Tai Chi, we're actually physically moving our bodies to get it to move.
Yes, and that's why I love it, because especially if you don't like needles, this is a great alternative, is you just move it. Yeah.
I went for acupuncture one time, and I hate to fess this up, but I actually threw up in their trash can.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Needles are not my friend.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
something I need to work on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely not for everyone. So, but yeah, so the idea is that this is a way you can also manipulate the energy so that you can free it up and get it unstuck in a way. And so that's kind of the idea with Tai Chi and Qi Gong is that's what you do is you move the body in certain ways and you're stretching out certain muscles as well, because when the muscles are tight, that's thought to keep the energy, that's thought to block energy flow as well. And so if we have tightness in a joint or in a muscle or even in our mind, if we're constantly in the stress state, and that's where the nervous system comes into, and that's why I like some of the deeper aspects of this practice, Tai Chi, Qigong, and really any movement practice that incorporates mindfulness is the mind. If your mind is in a fight or flight state in the stress response, then the energy is not going to flow as well either. And it's going to cause your muscles to tighten. It's going to cause your heart rate to increase. It's going to cause your blood pressure to increase. It's going to cause the cortisol and all these stress hormones to be released. On the flip side, if you start to practice these, any movement with mindfulness, however, these ones have been kind of practiced for years and they tend to be more effective. They're kind of like, they did a lot of process of elimination and stuff. They found these ones actually help the most. So like Tai Chi, Qigong, Pilates, I'm sure, and these other practices, if you follow these, then you get into a different state. You get into the parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest part of your nervous system. And so we kind of always have two ends of the nervous system. We have the sympathetic, fight or flight, parasympathetic, rest and digest. And so we're all kind of going through life. Most of us, I mean, I don't know anyone that isn't, but maybe there's some that aren't. Maybe the ones that do a lot of Tai Chi.
Right.
But we usually have some form of low grade stress, because of our daily demands, and probably is more moderate to high grade stress. And so it's really important that we find a way to balance it out. And so that's the idea with Tai Chi is the idea of yin and yang, or we call it yin and yang is how it's, sometimes pronounced. So we have the yin and the yang. So the yin is like the very relaxed, very kind of passive, kind of, slower movement. And then we have the yang, which is more active, which is more, like a faster or more aggressive in a way. And so basically you need both. And so I'm not saying like, don't ever be active, or don't ever do intense exercise even. But if you don't balance it with some sort of restorative exercise or some sort of, yin exercise, then, you'll probably become out of balance in all different aspects of your life, including mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So back to the PEMS, right? Let's get
Yes. I absolutely love it. I just think, what you're saying here is something that Amy and I believe in 110% and really try and bring this message that you're saying to our audience, because what you're saying, I think, is just it's so important to our life force to have this balance that you're referring to.
And we very much like to talk about bringing balance into each day. There are great benefits to having breaks from your normal activity and vacations and retreats and things like that. But I feel like if you can start to bring elements of the resting and the stillness into each and every day, even if it's just for a few minutes or whatever amount of time you have, that's where you can really start seeing some long-term effects. And it's exactly what you're saying. You can't just stay in that fight or flight all the time. Or it's not just the effect it's going to have on your body. You're going to make yourself crazy.
Yeah. We kind of are conditioned in this culture to think we have to kind of be hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up and in order to succeed. But when you look at the stats, then it actually isn't good. So they looked at a bunch of surgeons who tend to be like very, considered high success, right? And they're found to be very hard on themselves. They really beat themselves up, and so that they can really get through it all. But then they looked at the rates of burnout, and it's extremely high with surgeons. They looked at depression, which was off the charts, and even suicide rates were very, very high. And so we find that if we beat ourselves up, we might make a lot of money in a job that we may or may not even like, but we're going to potentially not be happy. And it's really not. It's like we're all looking for happiness, but we're all doing the wrong thing to get there in a way. And so in all my classes, I always teach self-compassion in all my Tai Chi classes. And so it's as simple as bringing your hand to your heart and just saying, this is tough. If that's all you ever do, then that can change your life.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that.
So, there's so much here. Adam, I feel like we could do a 5-part series here.
Please, I feel like you have so much to offer.
You do have so much to offer. So thank you for also taking that leap of faith in yourself and starting your business and your practice now, because I think there's going to be so much to come from what we're hearing. But what I want to ask you right now, you sold me, I want to try Tai Chi. What should I do? What should I look for? Where should I go?
Well, the best thing is I have lots of free Tai Chi on my channel, my YouTube channel. So that's a great place to start. Just go to my YouTube channel, Begin with Breath. If you just look up Begin with Breath.
And we will link that. We'll link that in the show notes here, as well as your website.
Okay, yeah, you can go to my website. I have links to everything on my website, beginwithbreath.com. And that's kind of like the hub where you can go and you can see what I do for integrative physical therapy. Right now, it's all telehealth.
But so that was another question. So no matter where someone is, they can find you in North Carolina and connect with you.
Yes. And I do have other options for people, which is it's called functional health coaching, or I call it the health transformation program. And it's another way that people can get to the root problem that they're having, where we look at the whole mind-body connection, also integrating functional medicine, which looks a lot deeper at the causes of disease, not actually diagnosing a disease, but looking at what are the imbalances that are causing it. And so it's great for people with chronic pain, or that they've been to conventional medicine and they're just like, they feel like they're kind of left behind, like the doctors don't know what to do. There's something you can do, and you can look at the underlying imbalances and not focus just on disease. You can look at what's going on underneath. So I do that. And then I also have an online Tai Chi studio and yoga. So Tai Chi is called Begin with Breath Connect. That's also linked to on my website. And then I do private Tai Chi as well for people that want to learn the traditional forms.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yep. If somebody's starting it for the first time, should they actually try a private first, or is jumping into a class okay for a beginner?
Yeah, so I made it so that my classes are great for beginners. So they don't have to commit. They can even watch them for free online. That's the thing. That's why I have the YouTube channel, so that you can see. I have a whole 30-day Tai Chi challenge where you get 30 classes. Yeah. And so they're like 10 minutes long each. Then I have a full class. So I have like broken down into sections, and then at the end of the section you have the full class. And then I break it down. I do a seated flow, and then I do what's called bamboo fusion, Tai Chi and yoga combined. So it's yeah. So it's really
I obviously like that.
yeah. Yeah. And so if you want to do that, so I put that out there to see, so make sure people can really kind of fall in love with it like I did. So that, because it's so easy to follow along with. And then you can join the studio if you want to do the full length classes. I do three live classes every week, and I'm getting more teachers on the studio now. And so that's growing. And then I have yoga. My wife is, when she has more time, she's going to start to teach more yoga. She's really pulling the weight with the kids right now, so I really appreciate her.
I can imagine. Two little ones, yeah.
But another thing that really jumped out at me kind of throughout our conversation today, and I think you hit on it specifically at one point, is what resonates with each person is going to be different. And it's sort of up to each of us to figure that out. And it might change at different times in our lives. So just knowing these different modalities and resources are out there, I think is so valuable for each of us and for the audience who we're reaching today. And so we will definitely link all of that on our show notes, and hope that people, might be inspired to find out a little bit more about Tai Chi, or maybe it doesn't seem so foreign, literally
exactly.
foreign to them after your conversation.
Yeah, the Tai Chi Fit, that's so great, because it's really meant for the modern person, so that it's not esoteric at all. Really, I don't even really talk about much except for just breathing and moving. And really, if that's all you do, then you're going to be doing great, and you just follow along. And then I have the private Tai Chi is more for if you do want to learn the traditional forms. That's primarily what I do the private for. But if you wanted to just do the other style with me too, I'm open to that. But that's kind of like what I focus on is because people need more instruction with traditional. But for the Tai Chi Fit, you don't need much. You can be a beginner and you can just follow along. That's why you don't really need really private instruction for that. So that's why I like that, make that available to all.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for giving us this time, Adam. I think we should wrap it up, and you've given everybody a great explanation of what Tai Chi is.
Great beginning.
Yeah, and I feel like talking about your spiritual journey was amazing too. I just, all of it's so connected because you can't disconnect your journey to where you are today and how much you help people with what you've got going on there. But thank you so much. And we've really enjoyed it. And we'll go ahead and make sure that we have all those links in the show notes so that people can reach out to you.
I think, I'm like always ready to schedule
another one.
Part two.
Great.
Sure. I'd love to. Just let me know when.
And thank you for taking the time. You're certainly really busy, and thanks to your wife for doing everything she's doing so you can do what you're doing, and maybe one day we'll be able to meet her as well.
Yeah, next time we'll have you both on.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait till we can really team up fully, and it's gonna be pretty awesome, I think.
Yes, it is.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for being here.
All right, thank you all.
Have a great day.
Bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Envibe Life podcast. For more information and to join our community, be sure and check out our website at www.envibelife.com. We look forward to sharing with you.